And welcome back to the Behind the Leazes podcast. Again, it's just the three of us this week. You've got me, Rob, Adam. Boss, how are you feeling after last night?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I don't know how Rob's feeling, but I'm feeling alright from the game yesterday. Yeah, obviously not the result people probably would have wanted, but I mean, a point's better than none, and I'm sick of seeing we lose, so at least it was something different.
Can't argue with that, mate. Rob?
Gonna be honest, mate, I'm not feeling great. 10 o'clock podcast after a Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning podcast after a Friday night out watching Newcastle. I'm a little bit hungover, if I'm being completely honest. But like Adam says, I mean, to be honest, we could have won it last night. I think we had the chances. Thank God St. Max pulled us out again, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, obviously first half it was a lively half, but we've got to start with that Leeds goal, haven't we? It was just what's going on there, and I think you can very much tell who's the defensive coach. Adam, from your eyes, who's at fault? What are you thinking, mate?
Well, for me, it's not dull to begin with, because for a goalkeeper to try and save that, it's very hard, because it looks like Bamford's going to get in the end of it and flick it on at first, so the keeper's got to make a decision. One, in the way it bounces as well, the ball makes it absolutely impossible for the goalkeeper to get. It's an absolute screamer, despite the fact that the guy obviously tried to cross it. But in terms of defence, I mean, one, how much space has Rafinha got? Two, what's the centre half doing? Because he gives the goalkeeper no time to read the ball because they're standing in his way. It's stupid. I mean, talk about the defence every single week. The defence is the worst in the league. I've said this all the time. The amount of chances League had in that first half was disgusting. How they only scored one goal, I never know. Even when we scored the equaliser in the 44th minute, we still couldn't see the half out. Leeds missed pretty much an open goal. I mean, it's unbelievable. I say it every single week. The defence is rubbish. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's just obviously Darlow coming back in after his extended period out. Woodman, I think if you went in the team sheet, they thought it was maybe harsh. Woodman had been excluded, but turns out he'd had a knock on Wednesday, I think it was, during training. But it just wasn't the performance you'd like to see. I mean, there was calls, I think it was early like last season when he came in while Dubravka was injured, that people were wanting him maybe called up for England. But he nearly gave an own goal away in the first half as well. Rob, what were you thinking behind Darlow's performance?
Again, I mean, I know I stuck up for Darlow for Woodman for a bit, because again, I don't think he did have a great few games. But at the end of the day, our defence is having an absolute nightmare. We're trying to play five at the back. We can't defend. I swear five at the back's less defensive than if we just played four at the minute, the way we're carrying on. So Darlow's first game back in a long time. He's not been well. Maybe I'm just being too nice to the goalkeepers, but I'll stick up for him as well. I think trying to throw him in to a team that is already having huge defensive issues, he's gonna have a struggle. And I mean, the goal, I think he could have done better, to be honest. But as I say, he's been blindsided by the player running across him, and it sneaked in at the back post. So on a normal day, I'd like him to save it. But again, as I say, when he's not playing that long and his defence is giving him no help at all, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, we spoke about our defensive issues before the season was really starting, while the transfer window was open. We've all said how we would have liked more players to come in, and I think 2 seasons ago, the cover we had in defence was probably some of the best outside the top 6. But a couple of years passed, and players lose pace, and the same with the keepers. Between Darlow and Dubravka, we thought we had 2 reliable goalkeepers to have in there, and especially bringing Freddie Woodman back, who's obviously won stuff with the England youth squad, but it just seems it's all going wrong defensively at the minute. So we'll push that aside and we'll talk about the one man in attack who was absolutely fantastic again last night, ran the show. Both number 10s, to be fair. Maximin for us, Rafinha for Leeds, made the game interesting. Maximin, what's your words on arguably, well, our best player at the minute?
Well, yeah, he is our best player at the minute, let's be honest. He carried the team again. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for players like Maximin and I thought Darlow yesterday had a really good game, despite obviously what you're thinking about his goal. But I feel bad for these sort of players because they've got so much dead wood in that team. Like, they've got to carry the team every single week. The defence is an absolute joke, and unfortunately, when we get forward, we look pretty good, but we leak so many chances at the back. Like, there's no point. We could score 3 or 4 goals in the game and still struggle at times. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I mean, Sim acting for the goal was class because he had to go inside the box. He had to make his own space because the attack was just so close to the back of the line. He honestly couldn't find a way through there. So he took his time and he eventually found his slot and stuck it in. But I mean, deservedly man of the match. He completely controlled the game. I mean, in the second half, he had a couple more chances. Yes, he could argue maybe he should have scored one of them. But I mean, he worked his backside off all game. And listen, I'm glad he's at the club. I don't know how much longer he'll be at the club, but yeah, I'm grateful, obviously, that he's put the effort in because I mean, no one else is doing it, unfortunately.
Yeah, Maximin's getting left to do a lot up there, up top, and especially that he's getting. It seems he's more and more becoming a centre forward rather than a winger that were brought him in to be. And this was a point that Alex Hurst made while he was talking to Nelson Carragher before the game. That you're looking at the formation. There's about five players out of position before we even start. So it does leave Maximin a lot to do up there, but. There was one player who he gets obviously a lot of flack. I mean, his price tag isn't his fault, but I thought last night Joe Linton had a really, really good game. He stood out and held himself up the pitch. Rob, I don't know what you were seeing in the ground.
Nothing, mate. I had 5 pints before I got in there. Didn't see anything. No, again, echoing what Adam said. Saint Max, every time he gets the ball, and I've been saying this for what feels like forever since he got here, is when he gets the ball, I'm literally shouting, don't pass, keep running. And I know Adam talks there about deadwood and players in the team who don't do the part. This is what it is for us at the minute. I think with Callum Wilson out, again, Steve Bruce, we've got cover in that area. Well, we needed cover 2 years ago when we brought in Andy Carroll, and he's gone. So apparently we don't need cover anymore. So when we don't have the cover, Saint Max is the only man who can sit in that striker position, and it's not his position. Thank God he knows how to kick the ball in the net because no one else does. I do agree. I thought Joe Linton worked well last night. I thought he tried hard. And at the end of the day, as a fan, when I'm going down to the ground, what I want to see is players who are giving it a go. The problem is that in terms of end product, people give Saint Max for not having end product. I mean, if you think he doesn't have any end product, look at the rest of the team. It's thank God he's got a little bit of product at the end of his efforts, because I think there was one chance that came across the goal that both Almiron and Joe Linton missed. So as I say, I you know what, I think those players I've just mentioned there, they did work hard. The problem is when things aren't going right, we don't have the players off the bench. But again, as I say, thank God St. Max stuck it in the net, because I'm not sure who else would have done it.
Yeah, Maximin and on and off the pitch was fantastic last night. I don't know if you've seen, he took to Twitter as always, as he does, and there was some Sunderland fan had left the comments saying that he flops on Sky. Maximin's replied saying that he's been inspired by Sunderland's playoffs performances. He gets one over on the Maxims again. He's brilliant. But yeah, so lads, you know what I'm like. Mankio goes down, and I can see there's two players getting the kit off, getting ready to come on. Unfortunately for me, one of them sits back down, Jeff Hendrick, which I think I would have probably lost me rag a bit by if he had ended up on. But Dwight Gale's sitting there on the bench, who we're talking 4 years ago now in the Championship, absolutely ran riot when we played Leeds away, and it just obviously all the talk that's going on midweek that there's been fallouts and stuff. Surely you're in the last 10 minutes, you've got a Derek Cup injured, you've got a load of defensive players on. Anyway, you bring someone like Gale on. Adam, what was your thoughts on the substitutions and the players that did come?
Now, before you even decide on whether Gale should have played that, he brings Murphy on like the 92nd minute or something. Like, what is he supposed to do in the 2 minutes he's on the pitch? And not only that, he actually looked good in those 2 minutes as well. He ran about 100 yards to the ball and tried to get it in. But the subs just back for me. Okay, the right back one, obviously, Mankey was injured, get him off. But I mean, with Dwight Gill, I don't think he fits in a 5-back, but obviously in the Leeds game yesterday, Steve was to change the formation 15 minutes in, so it must be really bad to begin with. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think he really has a place anymore, Gill. I can't even see him playing much this season at all. I mean, he's not a bad player. He's a bit like Joe Linton, his end product's not there at times. And I mean, in terms of when we do play the 5-back, he's never going to win the ball because all we do is lump it 60-yard long. And obviously, Joe Linton's more of a target man than Gill, so. Yeah, I mean, in terms of normal formation, he hasn't got a place. But yesterday's match, I would have given him some game time, but he went with Murphy in the end for the 2 minutes or so. Like, that was completely pointless.
Yeah, Gill, I think, is one of those players again that maybe should have left the team about two years ago. And he'd been out on loan the likes of West Brom, and he shows he's good in the Championship, and I think that's very much his level. And while other teams have strikers that can bring in and have good cover, our main concern is now if Maximin goes and gets injured, we've got nothing really going forward. I don't know who you would play striker, because I suddenly wouldn't trust Gale to be up there by himself at the minute, and I don't know if throwing it out there if he would then play Willock as a striker, because he's the only one that's shown he can score goals. Rob, how concerned are you about if with Maximin is injury prone, like if he is to end up injured, what do we do?
I mean, we've seen it already with the fact that that Callum Wilson's got injured, and there is no backup. There is no backup. Again, Steve Bruce talks about, well, we've got plenty of players in that position. St. Max, Willock. I mean, none of these guys are strikers. I mean, I don't know what world this guy's on, to be honest. Gale's, again, we don't want to sign. And I think Shearer spoke about this very recently, about the fact that basically we don't have, and again, I suppose that this isn't Brucey's fault, but we haven't got the money to sign new players. So what we have to do is continually renew the contracts of old players that aren't going to get in the team. I mean, we're renewing, and I'll be honest, Gale did wonders for us in the Championship. I'll thank him for his duty, but as you've said, we don't have a striker on the pitch, and he still can't get on. So that shows you where he sits in Brucey's book in terms of actually getting game time. So we're pretty much renewing his contract for no reason. You know, he is literally like at the end of the list of players who might get on the pitch at this point. I thought he looked good in the pre-season. I thought he scored a couple of goals. So to be honest, for me, I think maybe just giving him a go at times probably wouldn't be a bad idea. He's still quick. I've no doubt he can still put the ball in the goal. So I think bringing him on as a sub is better than bringing on Murphy at the 92nd minute. But I go back to what I said before. You know, we brought in Carroll 2 years ago for striker backup. Those were the words Brucey used when we brought in Carroll 2 years ago. 2 years down the line, we've let Carroll go and we've not replaced him. So if we needed a backup 2 years ago, why don't we need it anymore? And again, I honestly think if St. Max and Wilson could stay fit all season, I don't think it would have, well, again, would still be a relegation battle, but I think would come out of it okay. I think one of them's injured now and we're struggling on. I think if St. Max got injured as well, I think we'd be up the creek without a paddle, to be honest. St. Max did everything last night. He was the only player who looked like scoring. Thank God he did score. And I'm just waiting for Wilson to come back fit, and hopefully we might get a few points on the board, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one thing that I know you lads obviously being in the ground didn't get to see it last night. I thought the Sky Sports coverage of the game was like brilliant. It was refreshing to see the way Carragher and Neville were going on it. The key word that was brought up was hope, and there's just none. I've never known. It's not known for a football club to go in as a supporter, to go up the stairs and see the pitch. I know I've certainly lost it, and it's a rare occasion I get to go now. I've lost it where I'm thinking, right, well, we're up for this, but then that was another thing they mentioned. What is this? Like, you know what I mean? What are we up for? Another relegation scrap, which is what happens every season. Adam, you're going to. I know you're trying to get there every game this season. What's your thoughts now when you go into the ground?
Well, I don't even care anymore. Like, I don't care what the scoreline is. I go down and have a good day because that's it. Really, the football is always the worst part of the day, so you kind of got to enjoy everything else. But Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Sky Sports coverage stuff, like, I mean, about time, lads, you took your time doing that. But no, it was obviously good for the club. Yeah, see, they get some coverage out there, but really, though, it's not going to make a difference. You do coverage and all these different owners, but nothing happens. Hope, I mean, yeah, listen, obviously, I would look to have new owners, but that's just wishful thinking at the minute. It's not going to happen. But in terms of the matches this season, though, I mean, like I've said before, Watford away next week. I do know what to think for that game, and I don't really care, to be honest. I'm just going down and have a good day and obviously get some videos done. But yeah, that's just it. Really, the football was always the worst part.
Yeah, going back to the Sky Sports coverage before, Gary Neville, he's just fantastic. I certainly think he's one of the best out there in the punditry game. He spoke obviously passionately when the Super League stuff came out. So then for him to say on Sky, which really in the past has been quite like hush hush about the whole Mike Ashley saga and how he runs the club, for Gary Neville to come out and say this isn't the way a football club should be run, and almost a plea to Mike Ashley to sell the club. It was great as a Newcastle fan to see. But another thing Carragher mentioned is the leaks that have came out before the game, and a certain Craig Hopes wrote in the Daily Mail. I'll read you the headline. That there's been clashes between Gray Jones and Dwight Gale. Steve Bruce has then blasted Isaac Hayden for the Ronaldo goal, and players are angered with training schedule that suits the manager, and there's been dismay at team meetings. So going into the game, when you've seen stuff like that, what's your thoughts? What is going on behind the doors, Rob?
I mean, for me, as I say, when I was joking on about me being hungover this morning, I mean, the game was second yesterday. I had a fantastic night. I seen lads I've not seen in ages. Again, going back to the game after the pandemic, being back in there, seeing friends who I've not seen in a long time, was fantastic. In terms of the actual game, the squad, Steve Bruce, and everything goes on. I'm actually at the point now when I think Steve Bruce wants to go. I think Steve Bruce wants his payday. The way he's behaving, and I know we've said this for a long time, the way Bruce bigs up the other team, plays down our own team, and I don't necessarily think that he's doing it on purpose, but I think he just doesn't have a clue what the fans think. He calls himself one of us, and even when he speaks about the fans, he doesn't refer to them as us, as in he is a fan as well. He says them, which also grinds my gears, to be honest. I think at the point now, the way he was talking in the most recent press conference, the way he shot down the journalist and everything, I think he wants to go himself. And I just think it's got to the point where Bruce doesn't want to be there. The players don't want him there. And I think it's causing unrest in the dressing room. I think the players are thinking, if you're not bothered, why am I bothered? And I think that, thank God, we've got players like St. Max who will work hard regardless, who will do it for the fans like he did last night. Because I think in terms of Gale having a go at Graham Jones and all this kind of stuff is what happens when you've just got an unhappy place to be. Going to work in a place where you don't want to be, where people, it's becoming toxic. I don't like using the word, to be honest, but that's the way it sounds. We've got the under-23s going out and having fights in the town, and everything's just falling apart. And for me, it all starts at the top, which is Mike Ashley. And unfortunately for us, as much as I want that to be the first change to me, it's not happening. So the next change needs to be Steve Bruce for me. And again, I hate talking about Rafa Benitez because he's gone and whatever, but he was a manager under the same he was a manager under the same ownership. But somehow he brought the fans together and the club felt together as a whole. Steve Bruce comes in and within 3 years he's unravelled the whole thing, and from what I've seen, made the team worse than it was 3 years ago. So for me, I think Steve Bruce needs to go. Absolutely.
Yeah, Rob, you're not wrong on Rafa. I think a lot of people criticised some of the football were played under Rafa Benitez. It was a bit more on the defensive side with that 4-2-3-1. But then you look at the players he had compared to some of the players Bruce has now. He had, I think it was coming close to the end of the 2018 season, going into the World Cup, and people were calling out, God, it does seem like a long time now. They were calling Shelby to maybe be involved in that Newcastle squad, but he had them playing like prime, really good defensive midfielders at times. But you look now in comparison to managers in their tactics. You look, I think it was Richie's went over to the dugout. There'd been a break and play yesterday, and he's having a conversation with Graham Jones, and Bruce is here, and you see he's trying to say something. Graham Jones is just speaking over him. I think he's lost. I don't think it's the point that he's losing the changing room now. I think he's lost it. You mentioned Maximin before and how lucky we are to have him. Maximin's already said that given if we're not going to sign players, if we're not going to show more ambition, he wants away. And to be honest, I tweeted myself saying last night he does deserve that. Maximin, the way he played last night, deserves to be in a good team that wants to go forward and wants to obviously us as the fans want to win things, but the club there's just nothing up the top that's wanting to win. Adam, you've said you're going away to Watford for the next one, a team that we haven't got necessarily a great record against. It's very, very mixed. Are you looking forward to the trip? We'll take it you're more looking forward to the trip than the actual game itself.
I mean, well, yeah, obviously the trip going down is going to be good, but in terms of Watford, I mean, Newcastle in the last couple of games, we had spells in the matches where we played quite well. I think the win's coming at some point. I think Watford's not particularly a good team. Just fingers crossed that Ben Foster's more focused in his goal and his goalkeeping. But in terms of the game itself, I actually think Newcastle's going to win. I've got a really sneaky feeling that the first win's just on the horizon. And with Tottenham and Chelsea, the next two home games, we didn't take advantage against Leeds and Southampton. We should have beat one of them. We didn't beat either of them. So we really need the first win badly because the teams around were going to eventually start picking up points. But obviously Wilson's not going to be back, but we've still got the rest of the team. And on paper, yes, you could argue it's going to be quite an even match, but I think Newcastle's got that bit of extra talent, obviously that Premier League experience to get us over the line. But we'll see how things go. But listen, we'll see Steve gets ticking along against Watford. But I'm confident for this game. I think we're going to win it.
Confident of our Adam. Going to give us a score prediction?
I'll put it down to a win 3-0. I think we'll absolutely destroy them.
Where do you think the goals are coming from? If Wilson's in there, just Maximin?
I think
Max hat-trick.
I think Willock's due a goal. If you're playing further up the pitch, like we started to do a bit against Leeds. I know his finishing wasn't the best yesterday, but if you can get players like him involved more in the game, we'll have something going forward. But otherwise, it's going to be obviously Alan once and Max who's going to rely on those two really. But I think Miggy will score one, and God knows who the other two is going to be.
Hopefully, Miggy he's been good for the last couple of games. He looked really frustrated that he was brought off like him. He can run for days. But one thing we are going to be missing is Mankio. I think the next game. I don't know how serious his knock was when he came off last night. And like you said, Adam, before you mentioned Jay Murphy came on and looked quite good. I think that game was a game where you would have wanted someone with like Jacob Murphy playing with those early crosses. But the problem is who's getting on the end of them. Rob, what are you thinking for the next game away at Watford?
I mean, again, I'll sit and pray that we'll somehow manage to do something. And unfortunately, I think, you know what, if you look at it, Leeds, and you said to me before the game, would you take a draw? I probably would have said yes, to be honest. I think Leeds are a good side. I think they're having a bit of second season syndrome at the moment where they're not sure where they're going, but I think they'll be fine. I think Leeds have got a good team with some good players, and they've got a good style of play. I think if you attack teams, you will get goals. You'll win some, you lose some, but it's definitely more than capable of staying up. And I think for us, 1-1 against Leeds, it sounds a bit sad, to be honest, but I think that's probably about where we are. I think a draw is probably a decent result for us. I think going to Watford, you've got to look at it as being we are only going to win so many games this season, and I think playing against a promoted side, you have to look at that as a chance for 3 points. Unfortunately, with it being an away game, with Callum Wilson being out injured and the amount of pressure we put on St. Max to provide, I think is crazy. I think he can only create so many chances for himself. Thank God he put one in against Leeds. I'm just hoping to God he can do it again against Watford. I think it'll be a narrow result either way. I think 1-1 either way, or 1-1 would be my scoreline. So I think I'll go draw again. I think I'll go 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, Watford aren't a squad I've really looked at. I know they've got one of our former loanies there now, in Danny Rose, and just cleverly always seems to score a ridiculous fluke goal against us. And then they have got a couple of good players going forward. Josh King's a really good. Again, they've got depth going forward, which is, as I say again, we're one of the only teams that I think doesn't in the league. Josh King, João Pedro, Ashley Fletcher, Ismail Assai, Emmanuel Dennis, and Cucho Hernandez, all good signings, you know. And last night, playing against Leeds are another example of a team. I know they've had the second season flu at the minute, but Leeds are an example of a team that's come up from the Championship and done the business properly, brought in brilliant players like Rodrigo, Rafinha, and then you look at Villa are absolutely flying now. They came up after us. So it's just totally down to the incompetence at the top, that we're in the position we are. And I mean, looking at the games going forward from even after Watford, we've got another away game at Wolves. We're at home to Spurs, who I think some people were kind of expecting not to have a great start, but they have. Then we're away at Palace, home to Chelsea, away to Brighton. It's just looking at the games now, and it is where is that win going to come from? I know, Adam, you've said you're confident for Watford, but I can't see a winnable one in that till maybe Norwich at home at the start of December. I don't know what you lads are thinking. Adam, is there a standout game where you think we are going to start picking up points?
Well, obviously the home games against Tottenham and Chelsea are going to be hard, but the home games you've got to try and win those ones, despite obviously how good of a team that both of them are. In terms of away matches, obviously I already talked about Watford. Like I said, they're two evenly sided teams. You have to be looking for 3 points in that one. I mean, Rose again next week. They've started all right, but again, Newcastle have quite a good record of Molyneux, so you expect we'll try and get something in that game. But the Owens, Palace, and Brighton, I mean, yeah, on the day, good sides, but again, a bit like Newcastle, have rubbish days, and hopefully you just got to take advantage of them. That's just what it is. Really, you can't really predict what game's going to win. You just got to go to and try and win them. That's just how it is.
Rob, if you were to give one standout player for the next sort of games that isn't Saint Maximin,
I was going to say that's an easy question.
yeah, that's it. Who would be your man? I mean, you've got Callum Wilson coming back, which he's reliable, but apart from that, who do you?
You know, I think one player I want to see more of is Joe Willock. To be honest, I think everyone's given him a pass. I've given him a pass. I don't think he's really done anything since he's come back. To be honest, I think for what he did for us last season, he'll always go down as a legend in the Geordie books. Yeah. But since signing him, I don't know if it's not helping him. The formation we're playing, we've had a change. We have Wilson. He's pretty much trying to play in a role where he's getting absolutely no help. So I'm not going to stand here and say he's not giving it a good go, because he definitely is. Yeah. But that player who's breaking late into the box and trying to put the ball in the net, we've not really seen that. Having said that, we're only in the opposition's half for about 5 minutes of every game, so he's going to struggle to break late and score goals when we're playing that way. But I want to see him step up. I want to see him take the ball, grab the game by the scruff of the neck, because that's what he was doing at the end of last season. He was basically winning the game for us himself. I want to see that player again in the next few games, hopefully.
Yeah, that player that we got on loan in January. I mean, Liverpool, he's got that. I mean, we had the goal disallowed and then still went and scored again. But again, he's one of the players that's getting played massively out of position. Him and Miguel Almiron playing centre mids when they should really be right behind the striker, and that's where we'll get goals from Vic. But one last thing I want to talk about today, boys, is you were in the ground and you heard it audibly on the final whistle, the "We want Brucey out" chants and the boos. How loud was that in the ground, Adam?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what it is, what you expect, really. Obviously, everyone's doing it. We've done this every single match, so it's not really going to make a difference. It's just obviously letting everyone know that we want Bruce out, but it should just be common sense here. But yeah, it's not going to make a difference. He's arrogant, he's condescending, he doesn't care about the fans. He's not going to say anything. He could come in the press conference next week and he'll just slag him off again and just make more stupid quotes. It's just what he's going to do. He doesn't care. He wants the money. He wants to be sacked. We're not going to do it because Newcastle are notorious for not sack managers till it's too late. So we're stuck with him. We're stuck with a guy that doesn't want to be there, and he's rubbish as well. So what is the point of him? I always question myself: what does Steve Bruce add to this football team? He adds nothing to this football team. He doesn't motivate the players. He doesn't engage with the players. What is the point of him being there? He's getting what, £2 million a year for doing bugger all. He's useless. He's absolutely useless, and he's stealing a living. He's a fraud. So it's that simple.
Rob, I see you've still got your whistle round the neck.
I was going to say, I went out. You know, it's tough because I totally get it. I totally get why people are trying to set these things up, throwing tennis balls on the pitch, throwing paper aeroplanes. I took my whistle down. I blew it in 18 minutes. I don't think anyone else did around us. I got a lot of funny looks. So, you know, as I said, just because it's promoted on social media doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. I did my bit. I tried. Yeah. My friend tried to throw a paper aeroplane. I sit so far in the gods at the ground, didn't even make it halfway. Never mind on the pitch. But, I mean, we gave it a go. We tried. We did our bit. But again, the problem at the end of the day is, and Adam's just said it there. You know, we went through a pandemic. We didn't have people in the stadium for a season and a half, and that didn't make a difference. So I totally get why people want to boycott the games, not buy the shirts, not do this, not do that, throw tennis balls, take your whistles, let's do this, that, and the other. Unfortunately, it isn't making a difference at the top, and I don't. And again, as I say, I totally get why people are doing it. I just don't think it's going to change. I think Mike Ashley is sunning himself in Dubai or whatever the hell he's doing. He doesn't know what the score is. Unless Charlie texts him what the score is, he hasn't got a clue. He is so far away. And as I say, we went through a season and a half with no one in the ground. Mike Ashley didn't go, oh my God, everyone's not here, I better sell up. Like, honestly, I think it doesn't make a difference. I get why we're trying it. And I'm standing here myself with my whistle and I'll try it as well. But it's simple as and he's asking too much and everything else. And until it gets sold, that'll be the first we hear of it when it's gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all, mate. I think it's hard to protest against something when the owner doesn't care, regardless. It's good to do it, but it's to what extent, what good is it doing? You know what I mean? But boys, we'll leave it there today. Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back next week after Watford. Hopefully, Adam will be coming back up with seeing Newcastle winning 3 points for the first time this season. Maybe not too hopeful myself, but we'll just have to wait and see. So thanks everyone for watching today, boys. Thank you very much again for joining us, and we'll leave it there for the day. See you later.
Cheers, lads.